the 1960s. Mark has been a professional member of the National Qigong Association since 2006 and a regular presenter at national conferences across the country. He is the creator of the 3 Rivers 12 Steps Qigong for Recovery. He will be speaking on Are You Having Thoughts or Are Your Thoughts Having You? We will follow the sermon with a moment of silence for those who wish to reflect.
Is everybody liking the weather?
Today.
Well, today. Does everybody feel, according to the Farmer's Almanac on February 16th, it said the back of winter is broken. So, okay, so everybody's happy, the weather's good, you get that sense of spring, but you do know in mid-March, they're expecting a crippling snowstorm. I just made that up.
They are.
Thank you for that.
They're supposed to have a snowstorm in March.
Well, you know, but the crippling one. So basically, see, I'm using the example of, you know, are you having a thought or is a thought having you? So when you hear something, see something, automatically you go into a whole series of thoughts. I guess the best example I could give that last Tuesday I was at bingo, and towards the end of the night, the caller said, "Oh, it's going to start snowing pretty soon." So if you would see the panic on everybody in there, they're all thinking, "Oh, I'm not going to make it home," and everything, to the point where some of them asked for refunds for the last game. They had to leave early because they had to drive home. When we walked out at the end, nothing. So that's what I mean. When you have a thought, what does that set into motion? Because you don't know what's going to happen here. You got, and this is Beth asked me to talk on the 5 elements of Chinese medicine. Your body cannot tell the difference between an actual and an imagined experience. Okay, so whatever you're framing, and if you project into the future, you don't know. All pain and suffering results from the creation of psychological time. As soon as you take yourself out of this present moment, that's when you have the potential for pain and suffering. How is everybody feeling right now? Pretty good. Good? Okay, stay there. Okay, stay good. Yeah, so I mean, in Chinese medicine, we have a 5-element system, and the 5-element system is based on the transitional phases of yin and yang. Right now, we're approaching the first day of spring. So, where's the yin and yang? Somewhere.
It's there.
Oh, yeah. First day of spring is actually this is the bottom here. That was the winter's. Can you hear me? Good.
Yeah.
That was the winter solstice, is the extreme yin, the darkest period of time. First day of spring is going to be here. And then it builds up until the first day of summer, the longest day. And then you go over to autumn, half and half, and then it goes back to winter. So everything is cyclical. The 5 elements are transitional phases of yin and yang. So for example, the first element is wood, which is associated with springtime. Explosive growth, everything, all of a sudden you're walking around and all of a sudden, something's like, what the heck? But each one of them is associated with the liver. So there's virtues and there's acquired emotions. The virtues are what we bring into this existence. Okay. The liver houses the virtue of kindness, patience, benevolence. Right? The acquired emotions, some people would call these negative emotions. I don't think positive and negative, because what's the difference? Something that is allegedly negative could turn out to be your best opportunity for growth you ever had. And positive, if something is excessively positive, what happens there? It allows you to become complacent. So that might not be. So it's always the balance between the two. So the acquired emotions, they're the emotions that develop as our egos relate to the outside world and everybody else. So the acquired emotion of anger, rage, hatred, lust, envy. What's the old saying for, what do they call envy? The green eye, yeah, exactly. Which is the color associated with the liver. It's green and wood, the wood element. So if you hold on to the gift of this existence is to experience all the emotions, learn from them, and let them go. It's when you start to hold on to these things, that's when they start damaging your organ system. So you hold on to anger, man, hypertension, all kinds of liver problems, blood cancers, all that kind of stuff. So it's processing anger. I mean, you need to learn from these emotions and let them go. It's when you hold on to them. The heart is the fire element. Okay, it's associated with summertime, the color red. The virtue is serenity and tranquility, a peaceful heart. The acquired emotions are nervousness, mania, anxiety, excessive joy. That's an acquired emotion too. Do you know anybody who is just happy and bubbly all the time? Something's going on there. Once again, there's a 70-30 principle. If you understand the yin and yang, it's the dots. I tell my students, be the dot. You can never have 100% of anything. It's dysfunctional. When they say, give it your 110%, give it. I can use the analogy of a martial art. All right. If I throw a punch and I put 100% of my weight into this, somebody grabs my arm, I'm done. I have no recourse. If I throw 70%, I can adapt to things. So you always want to honor your maximum of 70%, because that allows you recourse to adjust, not if things change, but when things change, because they always do. Everything is constantly changing. From the heart, which is the fire element, we move to the stomach and spleen, which is the earth element. This is the big one. Your spleen, the virtue is trust, self-confidence. Or the acquired emotion is worry, pensiveness, obsessiveness. And what happens with the spleen and stomach if you hold on to obsessive worry? Ulcers. There you go. This is the Chinese medicine thing. They've always associated the emotions with the organ systems. How many people worry about stuff? Anybody? Why? It's the old, His Holiness the Dalai Lama always said, if you can do something about something, why worry? If you can't do something about something, why worry? If you can do something about something, do it. If you can't do something about something, wait till you can. It's military stuff is actionable intelligence. You know, wait till you have enough information to do something that's effective. In the Taoist tradition, is the sage does the work and then lets go. Does not take an attachment. Okay? After the stomach and spleen, you come to the lungs, which is the metal element. Metal, the acquired emotion, the virtue is dignity and integrity. Did you ever see somebody take a nice deep breath? It's like, you feel like proud, you know, your body language and everything. It's like, oh. The acquired emotions are sadness, grief, and loneliness. So what happens is, and everybody has loss. There's a story of the Buddha where a poor mother who had just had her dead baby came over to the Buddha and said, "Lord Buddha, could you do something with the baby? He's just died." And he said, "Go to a house and bring me back a mustard seed from a house that has not had a death." So she started to go around to every house. Oh, no, no one. She realized. So it's an acceptance. Loss is never easy because it mirrors our mortality. So that's never easy to do. But when I have people who come to me with major respiratory function problems, first thing I ask them is, did you have any recent loss, any unprocessed grief? I had this one lady with crippling asthma. She lost both of her parents within like a month of crippling asthma. We started the process and work on the grief, respiratory stuff. So you can't separate this. We exist on, it's called Jingqi Shen in the Chinese tradition. It's another trinity. There's trinities everywhere.
Physical, energetic, spiritual. You have to treat all three. On the physical level, the vibration is more dense. Okay, so you can go through your life with like maybe a broken arm or some kind of joint problem. But the chi, or the emotional and mental, that vibration is a little higher, and that can take a bigger toll on you to process different emotions and stuff like that. Going through life with emotional problems, that's rough. Shed level, the spiritual level, that's the highest vibration, the most subtle, but boy, can that take a toll. You know? So you might, and it's very subtle a lot of times, you might not realize, but everybody here has a good spiritual foundation, right? And the bottom line of any spiritual foundation is the acknowledgement that there's something greater than you, and then whatever metaphor resonates with you, because they're all metaphors. I think the most profound spiritual text is the Tao Te Ching, the opening line of it especially, because it says the Tao that can be spoken is not the eternal Tao. In other words, as soon as you try to put any of this stuff into words, you miss the point, because they can't be put into words. Most of the great spiritual teachers taught in parables. They're trying to direct your attention to something that can't be put into words. So when you have an experience and it's like you try to explain it to somebody, and it's like, well, you can't say anything. Now you're getting closer. Now you're getting closer to the actual spiritual experience. Because it's not supposed to be verbal. It can't be. Because the nature of language is you can only say something in relation to something else, or like what it is or what it isn't. The word is not the thing. Alan Watts, you can't get wet from the word water. You know? So the lungs, that's another one, that's the metal element, which is fall. And then they kind of saved the granddaddy of all of them for the last, the water element. The water is the source of all life. Water, the virtues are clarity and wisdom, but the acquired emotion is the granddaddy of all of them, fear. Every one of the other acquired emotions is fear-based. And where's the only place that fear could exist? Other than in your head. In the future. That's the only place fear can exist. You have to project. And once again, when you take yourself out of the present moment, all pain and suffering is created by the creation of psychological time. As soon as you take yourself out of the present, like I said, is everybody still good now? Yeah. You can think about stuff. So that gets back to the thought of, when you have a thought, are you projecting into something? Because your body can't tell the difference. And I think the biggest thing you can do for the world is great. There's a good example of learning. I watched him learn the path of least resistance, because he kept going down the ramp, never went up the ramp. We went up the ramp. He went up the ramp a couple of times, but then it was like, oh, wait a minute. Down the ramp. So that's the thing. The idea is to try to keep yourself at peace, because the power of entrainment, that raises the vibration. Like you said, when you walk out of any kind of meeting, or if you have a really good service or whatever, you feel, great. But then when you start getting pulled into it, I went to see my brother. He was dying of cancer. And I hadn't seen him in a long time. So he was in a home in California. So I walk in, and when I walked in, he just like lit up. He's telling everybody, hey, there's my brother. I haven't seen him for a while. Look, come on. His vibration changed like amazing. So we were talking and everything. He introduced me around. And then we went back to his room and he sat down. And you should see, he said, well, cancer, it's visually see him start to, I said, Billy, I do not care about the cancer. And as soon as he started focusing on that, his whole energetics changed. So the thing of it is try to keep yourself, maintain your peace, because if you really want to have an impact on everything, you keep your vibration high as you can, and that will impact everything around you. if you have your opportunity, like I said, talk with the kids. If you have an opportunity to help somebody who's suffering, whatever you can do that. In the Buddhist tradition, it's called skillful means. When you raise your vibration and keep that up, you know how to talk to somebody who's in pain and suffering, and you know exactly what they need to hear. That's why we work on ourselves. Like I said, my whole thing is if you truly want to be selfless, the first thing you've got to be is selfish. Put your own oxygen mask on first. Then you can be of service to everybody. The other thing about thoughts having you, or you having thoughts, car key principle. If somebody can change your mood with a look, a word, something said, something did, you have given the keys to your car to them. They are driving you. I'm one selfish SOB. I drive my own car. I don't give my keys to anybody. That's how you maintain. Like I said, this is how you, if you want to impact everything, keep your vibration higher. Be at peace with yourself. I think I told us every time I talk to people, Gandhi's saying is be the change you want to see in the world. Don't agree with it all. Be the peace you want to see in the world. Because one person's concept of change can lead to other people's oppression. Whereas if everybody's at peace, that peace transcends everything. My peace might be different than your peace, but we're at peace. So that's the thing. It's how you maintain, how do you move through your world? There has been pain and suffering and disaster and everything since humans arrived. It's never been any different, ever. The problem is now, with the news cycles and everything, we get to see the atrocities in a matter of moments. But it's never been any different, ever. So the idea is you try to maintain your peace. And if you can maintain your peace, what happens, did you ever see those, if your heart's in the right place, did you ever see when like tornadoes go through cities and everything's destruction, but there's like one or two houses that nothing happens to them? Heart's in the right place. You know, I can't tell you how many times I've been on the edges of disaster. It's like, so that's what you can do for yourself. Drive your own car. Don't give your car keys to anybody or anything or any situation. Do what you can. Do what you can to help in the most effective ways you can. I donate blood all the time. I'm up to 14 gallons. I have like a stack of Red Cross t-shirts, that big, and hats and bags and water bottles. I got socks. I told my family when I croak, donate all the shirts back to the Red Cross into a memorial wall or something. Yeah, so I mean, keep yourself at peace. Don't get pulled into the disaster and everything. Yes, it's out there. Do what you can to help, when you can help. That's kind of like the bottom line of things, but you owe it to yourself to keep yourself balanced. Because how are you going to be of service if you're not balanced, if you're not at peace with yourself? What kind of service are you going to offer somebody? My teacher, you would say, what, like as far as healers, I'm not a healer. Because what gives me the right to interfere with somebody else's curriculum? Healing is an invitation to examine how you might be out of harmony with the spirit. Just people who work with other people, from my perspective, I can offer something and say, listen, from my perspective, it looks like you could change this and do this and do this, you might get back to me. But ultimately, it's the person's work. And I think this is my lifelong teaching. I'm teaching for like 57 years, teaching guitar, piano, qigong, tai chi. And that's the thing, you got to do the work. It's like the arts. You want to get good at something, practice. The instant gratification, yeah, you might not be able to play the song in like a week. Might take a month. But then the self-esteem builder of finally being able to do this, you're working on yourself. And that's what's going to raise the vibration of everything around us. It's to be raised. It's the power of entrainment. Just remember that. Like if you go to a Baptist church in the South, And if you're not walking out of there just like after dancing and clapping to check for your pulse. Yeah, because I mean, to be in that kind of environment, with that blood lift, that's in training. So that's what I would say. Be careful when you have a thought, like when I said, oh, the major snowstorm, what was the first thing you thought about? You go through the whole litany of little thoughts that start happening. So be careful how you think, what you think about, and what you devote your energy to. Because especially when you get pulled into the acquired emotions, that draws a lot of energy. But especially with the anger and the rage and stuff like that, that can be very, very addictive because there's a lot of juice in being mad. Oh yeah, I'm angry about everything. Oh, I feel good. But it's taking a toll. So watch what you devote your resources to as far as thinking. Feels great to be mad sometimes. Yeah. Yeah. But if you need to be mad, but then be done with it. Okay. Now it's time to get up and make you all laugh. Ready? Rise. I got to do the exercise. Now here's the other thing. It's like when we do these exercises that might be a little challenging, ask yourself, here's the thought. Because a lot of times people will withdraw from this and not want to do it. Why? That's the things to ask. Okay, ready? I'm going to do it mirror image. So your right arm has two movements. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. 1, 2,
Here, Mark, come over here.
1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, now your left arm has 3 movements. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Okay, math time. What's the lowest common denominator of 3 and 2? Okay, ready? Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ready? Go slow. And give yourself enough room so you're not going to smack the person next to you, unless you are so inclined. Ready? Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The only time both arms are up is on 1 and 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Switch. 1. How does everybody feel right now? Are we laughing? Are we happy? Yeah? Okay, stay there. Stay there. There's no reason to move out of that vibrational state unless you come up with one. So a little prayer for everybody. I embrace divine presence, blessings, guidance, and protection, and give thanks for health, abundance, clarity, wisdom, and the ability to continue to be of service. May all beings reside in peace. Thanks for coming by. And don't forget to bartend your leaves and try the veal.
Our second song is number 352, Find a Stillness.
Stillness, oh, the stillness, the stillness, my heart is silent, oh, the silence, let the silence carry me. In the spirit, by the spirit, with the spirit, giving power. Find true love. Seek the essence, hold the essence, let the essence carry. Let me flow, help me flow, watch me flow, carry me. In the spirit, by the spirit, with the spirit, give me power. I true hope, know me.
In things essential, unity. In things circumstantial, liberty. In things yet to be, courage. And in all things, wisdom and love.
This whole world starts getting me down. People are just too much for me to bear. I climb way up to the top of the stairs, and all I care is just drift right into space. It's peaceful as can be, and share the world evil can't bother me. Let me tell you now, when I come home feeling tired and weak, I go up where the air is fresh and sweet. I get away from the hustle and the crowds and all that rat race noise down in the street of wonder. Up the roof's the only place I know where you just have to wish to make it so. Let's go up one road. At night the stars put on a show for free. And darling, you can share it all with me. I keep telling you right smack dab in the middle of town, I found a paradise that's trouble. If this world starts getting you down, there's room enough for two. I wonder, I wonder, I wonder.
Thank you to everyone who made this service possible. Mark Reinhart, Aaron, thank you for the music. Ava, Karen, and Jenny, it was my pleasure to be your convener this morning. As Unitarian Universalists, using your voice is vital to our success as a whole. Use your voice today to fill out the worship committee survey. Tell us what you think about our Sunday services. We use these surveys to inform us as a worship committee on how we are going to do and how we can improve. Speaking of using our voice, we now have our social action minutes from the Social Action Committee.
I don't have a lot of notes today. Because this is somewhat of a personal observation. When I initially finished my schooling at the tender age of 23 and I got my first real job, I was teaching English as a second language to international students at a university in New York. And I had very lofty ideals and ambitions in those days that I was going to save the world. And one of the first people I met at the university was this fiery young revolutionary. He was the chair of the sociology department. He wore a Mao cap. He argued eloquently and articulately at all the faculty meetings for better rights for workers. I was in awe of him, my starry-eyed 23-year-old eyes. But then I also started to notice something else. In those days, before PCs, even the administrative assistants were called secretaries. And the secretary in the sociology department was a very hardworking, middle-aged woman who had taken on this job, often thankless at times, dealing with all these academic egos, because her daughter was granted free tuition. And what I noticed is that this chairperson, Mr. Social Justice Warrior, treated her terribly. He was dismissive, he was patronizing, he was condescending. He would walk in the morning asking where his coffee was, and later when he'd finished and only the dregs of the coffee, he would hand the mug to her without even making eye contact. And I said to myself, how could this be? How could there be such a disconnect between this person with such lofty, idealistic notions of social justice be so condescending and dismissive in a relationship with a person right in front of them? So I thought, well, maybe it's an anomaly. But I encountered this over and over and over again in my adult life. Most recently, having dinner with my brother and sister-in-law, her cousin had recently retired from working for Amnesty International. I said, that must have been an amazing experience. After all, Amnesty International, they're going into these terrible, oppressive, tyrannical war zones where torture is legitimate, rescuing prisoners from these dank dungeons in Thailand. And he said, yeah, sure, it was amazing because Amnesty International believes in human rights for everyone but their employees. I was taken aback. And what I have learned that it's easier when helping someone is an abstraction than when it's right in front of you, in a person that you don't even see. And so then I asked myself, well, does it matter that much if the person who cured cancer on their way home from work treats the man or woman at the checkout counter in the grocery store with callous indifference? Because after all, their actions have saved thousands and millions of lives and relieved human suffering. But of course the answer is not only does it matter, not only should one never preclude the other, but at some very basic and profound level, this is what makes us human. And so I began to observe in people not the way they publicly stated or avowed their missions but in the way they personally treated people around them. And I was reminded of a poem by William Butler Yeats called Easter 1916, where he wrote about the Irish Rebellion. And he used these words that too much sacrifice can make a stone of the heart. When will it suffice? And what I discovered that sometimes in an individual's zeal to change the world, their individual actions towards others have caused untold pain and suffering. Because as it turned out, this secretary confided in me one day that she had to brace herself every day to come to work, that she left feeling like nothing, and that she had to suffer through those 4 years because of his treatment of her. My father once told me that when he went to work every morning, the person he was happiest to see was the individual who was the custodian at the hospital where he worked. This individual was cognitively challenged. And everybody else would walk by him in the stairwell, never saying hello, never making eye contact, never entering into conversation with him. But my father did. Because as my father said, he was the only person that seemed genuinely glad to see my father. The other co-workers, usually, or certainly his supervisors or bosses, often behaved quite differently. And I realized that there would never be a building or a reading room or even a commemorative plaque to my father for what he had done. So what was his legacy? Until one year at Christmas, I saw my father open an envelope. He didn't say anything, and every year at Christmas he would open the same envelope under the tree. Of course, my father was Jewish, so that sort of added some comic irony to it. And I asked my mother one day, what's this envelope he gets every year? And it was a card that the custodian sent to my father every year until the day he died. So never let, and I say this to myself in all candor and humility, our public zeal, our striving for social justice cause us to forget the suffering and pain and callous indifference that we're all unfortunately capable of treating another individual with. And that how we treat this person makes all the difference in the world.
I can do it by heart, but you took my paper. Next, we will have our controversial announcement by our president.
I treated you with gross indifference.
Every Tuesday, starting at 4:45, we have Zen meditation here at the church. Following the Zen meditation, we have Recovery Dharma starting at 6 p.m. On Fridays from 8 p.m. to 11:30, we have Dungeons and Dragons. The fourth Thursday book group is meeting this Thursday, February 27th at 7:30. If you would like more information on that, see Rob. The Dark Moon Norse Heathen Sambal on Friday, February 28th at 6 p.m. here in person. Next Sunday after the service, there will be a vegetarian potluck. There is a craft night social hour scheduled for Thursday, March 6th from 6:15 to 7:30. Looks like that's everything for the next 2 weeks, but there's plenty more in the announcements, so please take a look at them. As always, our food pantry is open downstairs. Help yourself to anything that's in there. And if you would like a gift card for Aldi's, please see myself or Jenny or any board member, and we'll be happy to get you one. Are there any other announcements?
Up and back in. So the sign-up sheet for the Rose at the community garden
Is full.
is full. All right. You can still grow at your own home and participate in the community garden. And the vegetarian potluck is basically sponsored by the Climate Reality Group, who wants to get involved with the church. And so if you can bring a plant-based potluck item, then we'll just have it basically as the coffee hour afterwards.
There's a sign-up sheet back.
This is, oh yeah, and there's a sign-up sheet back.
It's vegetarian, not vegan, correct? Doesn't
Correct.
have to be vegan.
Correct.
Please join us for coffee and conversation downstairs.
That's all right.
That's all right. You know, my question to you is,